Here's the ugly truth why your partner disrespects you. Her behavior is not random, it's feedback on your masculine leadership in the relationship. And in this video, I'll teach you the 4 masculine habits that helped over 200 clients of mine go from constant disrespect to her being soft, warm, and lovey-dovey again. So the first thing you can do to show up as a stronger leader is to stop acting like a Kevin around her when things get heated. So I want you to imagine the following, right? You're walking down the street and suddenly you hear a woman loudly speaking to her partner, right? And suddenly the guy loses it, starts yelling and throws his cup of coffee that he was holding to the ground and storms off. Now I want you to hold that thought for a second. Imagine the exact same couple, but now imagine the woman loudly speaking to her partner, and instead of him yelling, he takes a deep breath, he smirks at her and just hugs her. And she instantly stops yelling and hugs him too. Let me ask you this, who of these 2 men would you respect more? Obviously the second man, because he de-escalated the situation and got his partner to soften instantly, like magic actually. As Marcus Aurelius says, the nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Now you gotta ask yourself, how do you actually become that man of strength that I call Hercules? First, build awareness. Why do you lose your temper when she gets loud? Most of my clients, they get triggered because of something they've been unconscious for years. They've never really connected the dots. A lot of clients of mine got bullied at college, or they had parents that never said they are proud of them. They always felt a bit small, and no matter how much money they made, they never truly changed. Now when their partner raises her voice, it reminds them of that same old wound and that same old feeling of being small. That's why communication workshops only get you so far, right? Because it's not poor communication that's the issue. It's lack of emotional composure. Think of it like a house, right? Communication is the paint on the walls, but emotional composure is the foundation of the house. If there are severe cracks in the foundation, no amount of paint you're going to put on the walls is going to save the house from collapsing. So how do you go from that Kevin that loses his temper or raises his voice and makes him look incompetent to Hercules, an emotionally non-reactive man actually? So it's super simple. So aside from discovering your triggers, you gotta reframe them. So when you get triggered, you have a thing that I call response ability. You have an ability to choose your response to the trigger. So when you get the sensation of losing your temper, you take a deep breath and you buy yourself some time and then ask yourself, okay, how do I want to show up? Do I want to show up as a Kevin who has the emotional maturity of a 6-year-old, or Hercules, a competent masculine leader who his partner respects? The answer is quite obvious, isn't it? The answer is obvious. And when you stay non-reactive, your partner will soften. However, only being non-reactive isn't going to cut it. If you want to respect long-term, you can't just sit there in silence. You also need the next habit, which is how you speak. This is honestly one of the biggest habits most of my clients unconsciously get wrong, but when we fix this, it has an instant impact. When you talk to your partner, pay close attention to how often you use this kind of language around her. Babe, are you okay with this restaurant? Or now I want you to pay close attention to my voice. Hey babe, do you feel like this restaurant is a good choice? You think what you're doing and saying and how you say it is sweet, but it actually makes you look totally weak. And as a consequence, your partner starts disrespecting you. And by the way, did you actually notice what specifically is wrong with what you say and how you say it? And this is purely primal, but when you end your sentence or questions with a very high-pitched voice, you convey that you lack conviction, which violates your prime desires for masculine leadership. And it's not being about domineering or bossing her around. No, man. It's about conveying that you are sure about yourself. And even if you ask her for your opinion, you seek advice, not permission. Because when you seek permission, her entire respect for you vanishes. When you ask for permission, she views you as a Kevin in that moment, right? Not a Hercules that is this confident masculine leader who she trusts with her softness and feminine energy. I kid you not, man, this is primal, but she literally views you as a boy when you ask for permission, not a man, not a leader. And while she can still love you as a boy, as weird as this actually sounds, she still won't respect you. Unconsciously, you are pushing her into her mom role. So obviously you want to know, how do you fix this? You don't have to become a dickhead about it, but you have to strip away your Kevinness, your softness. Stop the weak ass qualifiers like, hey, I think, maybe, and do you like this? Do you think this is good? Replace them with clear, sharp statements. For example, hey Bambi, I want to try out a new steakhouse on Saturday. Can you make time at 7 p.m? And also wear something cute, by the way. Did you notice how I'm not bossing her around? I'm leading, and I'm inviting her to make time. Also, my voice dropped at the end of the sentence or the question because I am confident in myself. And if she doesn't want to join, I don't make it a big deal. I'm okay with being rejected. All right, man, we've covered how to stay calm when things get heated and how to speak with conviction when it matters. But to gain her respect, it's not only how you show up for her, but also for yourself. And I'm going to cover this in the next habit. So a lot of my clients, they struggle with this specific habit and it really unconsciously bleeds into their relationship. So when they screw up, they call themselves idiots, losers. They tell themselves that they don't deserve anything anyway. And then because sitting with that feeling is so uncomfortable for them, they grab their phone, they doom scroll, or they numb it with a drink or fast food. When that isn't enough, they start wrecking their relationship unconsciously. So I'm going to explain it using a personal anecdote with my ex Mary. So every time I felt bad about myself, I often craved more hugs, more cuddles from her. And at that time, however, I didn't really connect the dots that I was looking for validation from my partner. And that's exactly where the problem started, right? Women are wired differently compared to men. They are so much more experienced in reading emotional tunes and frequencies than we are. They pick up on the suppressed fear, that quiet self-hate, that buried anger in us. That's why women often ask, hey, is something wrong with you? And when we say, no, everything's good, they keep bugging us because they can read something that we haven't really figured out yet. But that's for another video. When you rely on her to fix it, right? When you ask for cuddles every time you're down, she might hug you, but she reads the motivation behind it. There's obviously nothing wrong with asking for affection or asking for some emotional support once in a while because you're having like a bad day, because everyone has bad days, right? But when one bad day turns into a bad year and you keep outsourcing responsibility and for feeling better to her, right? You force her into a masculine energy. And the moment she has to be strong for you when it could be easily fixed, that is the moment she loses respect for you. So what is the fix? Very simple. Writing down your thoughts and feelings in a personal journal. Ask yourself, what triggered me today? What am I afraid of? And what's a pattern I notice? And instead of outsourcing it to her, you train yourself that you're self-sufficient. And once you've processed these emotions, then you can still share them with her and even share your findings. I always do this with Sandra. I even talk about trauma with Sandra, because I am not afraid to be vulnerable. And I actually turn this into a strength and a superpower because she respects this, because it shows her that I'm constantly evolving. And that is sexy as fuck, man. Now, before we wrap up this video, man, there's one more habit that when you develop this, she will see you as the guy, as the Hercules. And I want to add a bit of backstory to this habit. So I was raised by my grandma because my parents gave me up for adoption, right? And my grandma Agnes always said, treat women right, be a good man. But nobody ever gave me a manual, and I also lacked the male perspective to this. So for me, treating women right meant saying yes even when I wanted to say no, tiptoeing around her so she doesn't feel hurt or upset. And it wasn't even that extreme that I thought that making a playful tease about women or putting a woman in their place when like a partner cut me off would make me look like a bad man. So I put on this Polish mask to save the nice guy version of myself fundamentally. And I mean, what do you think that did to my relationship? And it got even so bad that I suppressed it in the bedroom, right? I was really afraid of pulling the hair back of my girls, right? I was afraid to treat her a bit rougher, even though they wanted it. And I lost all respect for my girlfriends because I was ashamed to be raw. And they even demanded me to be a bit rougher with them, but I just couldn't. And that's the issue. A woman cannot look up to a man who's ashamed of his wildest desires. So I hired a mentor, and he gave me one piece of advice that stood out to me to this day. I'm gonna do it as a dialogue, so because it's like literally the way my mentor did it with me was just like groundbreaking. So he asked me, okay, Gene, when you're like stuck in your head, who is listening to your thoughts? Me. But then who is creating these thoughts? Me. So who has the power to choose your thoughts and respond to those thoughts? Silence. I realized that the line of code that I was running on in my system could be changed. And from then on, I gave myself the permission to be a wild man. Now, a lot of my clients, when they join my program, they struggle with this too. And one of the exercises I give my clients, or that we do in the coaching calls, is that we act like animals. We talk in animal noise for like 5 minutes in the virtual breakout rooms to break the fear of being judged. And I know this sounds totally crazy, but here's what happens when we do this. When you stop giving a fuck about how the world or your woman sees you, that makes you actually way more respectable, and it increases attraction and desire for you like crazy, man. Once you display those habits, she will respect you again. When she respects you again, she will want to have more sex with you. And it is important that you do not make these two mistakes in the bedroom when she wants to have more sex with you. And you can avoid these mistakes when you watch this next video.